Block Gemara. Today's daf is daf Ayin Aleph. We're continuing the laws of the legal status of a sale, what's included, what's not included. And when we already learned half of this Mishnah previously, Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, they have a fundamental argument. How generous are you when you make a sale? Things which are not really, they're there to assist in the field or in the house, everything else, but they're not really, an essential part of the house. So we, for example, as we'll see in the Mishnah right here, what's not included when you sell a field is the boy and the gas and the shevach. Neither of them, that's ayin aleph, the Mishnah on top of the page, neither of them are included, or none of them are included because they're sort of extraneous to a field. The different kinds of wells and cisterns. Bein charevin, whether they're dried up so there's no water there, or bein yeshuvin, or whether they're filled with water, it doesn't matter. It's not part of the field. Now, so the din is that you retain ownership of the boy. The vendor retains ownership of the boy. But how does he get to the boy? So here we have a machlekes or a kivna chachamim. And we had a discussion with the Gemara what we think the basis of the machlekes is, but the Gemara concludes the basis of the machlekes is, as we're going to explain, that tzarich likach lo derech, the owner of the field who sold the field, now he retains ownership of the boy, doesn't have automatic right to trespass that person's field to get to the boy. Why? Because you're a generous seller, and you gave the entire field away, and now you want to be able to go to your field, you have to negotiate rights. Surely, if you retain ownership of the bird, you're not a great seller. Why do you sell? You sell because you need to, not because you want to. And therefore, I want to say you retained ownership of the path to get to that bird. But we did learn it's redundant. Why in the world would he have to say, I'm selling you the field minus the bird? The din is, anyway, the bird is not included. By me saying minus the bird, excluding the bird, I'm adding something. I also want to retain ownership of the path to get there. He doesn't, in that case, because it's as if you specify clearly, I'm retaining ownership of the path to get there. What about Machal the other way around? You retain ownership of the field, but you sold the bird. According to Rabbi Kiva, you're very generous in your sale. You obviously sold him also the path to get to the bird. Rabbi Kiva, man, certainly go there. That guy doesn't have to negotiate to buy a right to the path. And the Chachamim certainly go there. You have to. Why? Because you only sold in the bird and nothing more. You want to be able to go there, you're trespassing. Let's negotiate. This is all said by a sale. When you give a matana, you're giving it out of love. Then noisin, that's kula. When we say kula, we mean not only we're talking about even the boy, even the dus is included. They're sort of extraneous a bit to the field, but you're giving everything away. Give everything that's in the field, you're giving away. But everything that's attached to the field. If there's money lying in the field, of course that's not included in the field, even though I'm giving a matana. But there are things which are attached to the field. Navas might be extraneous to the field. They're not included in a sale, but in a matana, they are included. If two brothers divide properties, one guy ends up with let's say with a boil and a dus and all that, one guy ends up the field. Or in this case, whoever ends up the field ends up generally, you get the boil and the dus in your field. And because when we want to separate out, we don't want to have sharing. That's the whole idea of separating a Yerusha. You have that, I have this, and if contra you, what you have, I'm going to have this. So therefore, whatever you have is entirely yours, including the boy, the dus, everything. If somebody makes a chazak, remember a geir when he passes away, his estate is hefker. If you make a chazaka, herzik besad bekula, you're kind of also the boy and the dus, things which are normally extraneous. But over here, in this case, when you make a chazaka, you have a mind to be kind of everything. And even we had, the Mishnah yesterday, we had two trees that were so significant. We said a tree called a charub, a boxer tree, a carob tree, and we had a tree which is a sycamore tree that's so choshev they're not included in the sale. And we gave an example that there's two fields and a boundary in between, and you make a kinyan in one field, you don't automatically kind in the next field. But over here, if you're kind of the field, you're kind of even the sycamore trees, and you're kind of even the carob trees. And why? Because the pile, there is no boundary between that and the trees. And then since you're kind of everything, you make a kinyan, you're kind of everything here. There's no one else who has any ownership that we can say, oh, it stays there. There is no other ownership here to hold it back. Okay, now we're going to have a big machlekes. And this is basically what the Gemara is going to be talking about in the next two blocks. Hamakdish asasada. How do we treat hegdish? Is it like a matana, you're gifting, or is it like mecher, a sale? Mecher, the difference is matana, you give a matana because out of the goodness of your heart. Hegdish, that's what it is, you give a donation. Or we could compare it to Mecher, because when you sell something, I'm getting something in return. Why are you giving to Hegdish? You want brachas for the Eibishter, you want something in return. So it's compared maybe to Mecher, which means we'll have the same dinim as Mecher, that a boyer and a dus are not included, or same thing as Mecher, that the same machlekes of Akiva and Chachamim, how generous you are, will apply there as well. But if you treat it like a matana and I give a field to Hegdish, then everything is included, including the boyer and the dus, and even the Chachamim made the hanoisim matanas ba'ayin yafanoisim. So it's important to know how do we treat Hegdish. And we'll see it's a big machlekes. A magdish so the higdish is cooler. When you magdish a field, you magdish the entire field. In other words, we treat it like a matzana. Everything. Including the boy, the dus, everything. Rab Shimon says no. It's like mecher. And by mecher, even if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, that you give that you mecher by yofim, even Rabbi Akiva is made the boy and dus are not included. Or the so therefore Rab Shimon says hamakish asad the higdish ela zachruva murkim besad shikma. Okay, so it's like a matana. It's like mecher, but you're generous. So you're giving these trees away, but you're not giving the boy, you're not giving the dus away because it's like a mecher with a generous eye, rather than like a matana. That's Reb Shimon's view, and we'll see in the Gemara. We'll discuss what exactly Reb Shimon holds. You'll have to specify it. Yep. Says the Gemara. First of all, ma'ishna mecher, ma'ishna matana. Why should it be different? Why should it be different? Why by mecher, even if you hold, you get a good eye, it doesn't include the boy vidus, and why by matana does? Says the Gemara. Piddush Yehuda ben Nekusa from Rebbe Yehuda because I explained before Rebbe Zeh Piddush v'Zeh like Piddush. Oh, by Matana you specified everything, and therefore it includes the Bayrus or these trees, and by Mecha you didn't specify. For the Gemara, Hi Zeh Piddush Zeh like Piddush. Where does it say in the Mishnah that Chilik is? The Mishnah says the Chilik is Mecha Matana, not the Chilik is how much is specified. Ella Zeh Hoyelay Lefadish. So two ways of learning Gemara here. One way of learning Gemara is by a moichet, since a moichet is generally hard pressed to sell, he doesn't really want to sell. So therefore, he wants to sell as little as possible. Even if you hold ban yofa moichet, he's only selling because he has to sell. So things which are a little bit outside of the norm, like a boy or a dus, which are not really part of the house or of the chutzner, then he should have specified. But I'm including it. If he didn't specify, then the natural inclination is to say that he only sold things which are directly relevant to the bayis, the chutzah, the sada. Even if you hold bayin yafa, it's still limited. Mashenkin by a matana over there, I'm not giving because I have to give. I'm giving. I really want to give. I want to give. Then if I didn't want to give you something, I should have held it back. I should have clearly said, I'm giving you it, but not this. So here he had to be fash, he didn't. That's one way to learn trust. The other way to learn Shaz Abin Geshem and others is punkt laket. We look at it from the eyes of the koiner or the recipient of the matana. By a matana, you're embarrassed to say, so what am I getting? You're happy with whatever you gave you. So you're not going to ask. In that case, the moicha should have said, I'm holding this back, I'm holding it back. Since the Lokech couldn't, the one who's receiving the matana, Makabel couldn't say, oh, are you giving me also this, you give me that? You're still embarrassed. He's happy with whatever you gave him. So therefore, since the moicha didn't hold anything back, since the Neisim Matana didn't hold anything back, means he's giving everything away. When it comes to a purchase, you're paying money for it. You have every right to ask. So what am I getting for this money? And if you didn't ask, then it's your loss. And we're going to say you got as little as possible. And therefore you don't get the boy and the goose and all those things. Okay. So that we don't start. How will plan your base? Give that person, so this is a matana. Give that person a house, the machzik, may a goofy that it can hold 100 barrels. That's how they used to measure. And the barrels were standard measures. So it was 100 means 10 by 10. We had we'll have a bira is a certain measurement, the 10 amas and the avdani is this, different measures of what a house is. I mean, their houses is the size of our toilets. And that was for them a house or a bedroom. For them a whole house, a bira is like a palace. So he said, measure the house 100 barrels, which is 10 by 10. They found the guard 12 by 10. So what does that mean? He only go over him 100, so therefore out of that house you don't get the full house or a field or whatever the case may be. You don't get the full house. You get, you'll get a 4/5. You get 5/6 of the house. You get 5/6 of the house and 100 barrels worth, and the other 20 barrels worth you don't get. Ravashi says, when are we so pedantic, particular what he says only by Moichet? Everyone agrees you're generous. Noisin is cool and everything. Even the 120, extra 20. Why did he say 120? He probably made a mistake. But why did he even nominate? He wanted to show, I want you to appreciate what I'm giving you. It's a big house. Okay, and I didn't know it was 120, so I just said 100. I made a mistake there. So therefore, it's not limiting because, on the other hand, it's a matana. And matana, the idea of matana is you're always giving as much as you can. So we're going to assume that you gave the whole house. One who gives a matana gives it generously. Gives generously. Okay, now we'll discuss Hegdish. Magdish as Asada, Higdish. Amar Rav Huna comes along. Now, generally speaking, we learned before already, if you buy 3 trees within a certain distance from each other, you get all the land in between as well. You get all the land in between as well so that you can sustain these trees. If you buy 2 trees, you don't get the land in between. You might get, oilei v'sala, just enough land for the sunlight to come in and to have a basket there to pick all the fruits and everything else. But that's all you get. You don't get the land in between. Okay, that's number one. So we're going to talk now. When you donate to Hegdish, who gets the tree? You give donating trees. What happens to the land underneath those trees? And the big nafkamina, if you get the land underneath the trees, is not is if I buy trees and the tree dies, I don't have the right automatically to plant another tree because I don't own the earth beneath it, I don't own the soil, I don't own the tree. And I bought the tree and the paid Isaac, as long as it's producing paydas. Once it stops yielding paydas, I lose out because I didn't get the land with it. But while the tree is intact, but it's not the ground itself, it's the space. The space, yes, exactly. It's called Oilei V'Salei. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna comes over the Chiddush. Rav Huna says, about a person we say, Hakoinish nei Elon b'teich shel chavedi. Hareze loikone karka. If somebody buys if somebody buys, let's say, two trees, he does not get the land between the 2 trees. Let's say there's 25 amas between the 2 trees. He doesn't have any right to that, even to the airspace of those 25 amas. And surely he does not get the ground, the soil underneath this of the tree. Dies, fafaum. What about the other way around? Macha karka, you sold the land and you kept the trees. You kept the trees. We learned before that when you sell land, all the trees are included automatically in the sale, except the chruv, hamurkiv, that buck carob tree. Once you start grafting branches into it, so it's solid, and the sadan hashikma, and that sycamore tree. Once you start pruning it, so that now what's growing back, is really good wood for construction. But all other trees are included. But here, the other way around, you sold the karka, and you said, I'm keeping the ownership of the 2 trees. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you sold also the land underneath the trees. According to Chacham, you kept the land under the tree, the earth under the tree, so the soil. That means if the tree dies, you should be able to plant again. That's what you would think. Comes along that when it says, if you mocha karka v'shai shnei lefanov, yesh like karka. You keep the karka. Now he goes a step further. The Gemara assumes that who is saying a chiddush. If he's only talking about the Rabbanim, we know that already. If I keep the trees, obviously I want the soil underneath it as well. So what's the chiddush of Rav Huna? What's he adding? The chiddush of Rav Huna is adding that I feel Rabbi Akiva. The Amar Moicha Ban Yofim Moicha Rabbi Akiva generally holds what? That you're being generous. So Rabbi Akiva, you're giving the land away from the trees. No. Only by a boy bedus do we say that I gave you the path as well, and I have to negotiate to buy it back if I'm the vendor of the say the chutz, and the boy bedus buys to me. Why over there the boy and the dus that doesn't in any way weaken the ground. Once it's there, it's there. I'm not thinking brand new boy. It's once it's there, it's there. I'm not harming it anyway, so I don't even think about it. And why wouldn't you? I assume you'll let me get there. Why wouldn't you allow me to get there? So if I don't negotiate and I gave you everything. Abel Elon is the kamachash about it, but trees, they weaken the ground and sucking out the nutrients. In that case, there, if I don't have in mind to retain the ownership of the earth below, the guy can tell me when the tree dies, goodbye, take your dead roots and goodbye. So then, in that case, even if I'm going to lose out. Surely I want to make sure that if I'm keeping the trees, I want to keep it for longevity. I'm keeping the ada for myself. That's how the Rashbam learns. Tesis learns not that you're gonna say when it dries, because that Gemara brings up later, as if right now we don't think of that. We're saying that Nochmed, Even while the tree is growing, maybe the owner can say to him, listen, your tree is sucking out the nutrients. I can't plant anything around it because you're taking all the nutrients out of the soil. Take your live tree and leave. Zikir, actually, the Lashon sounds like Tesis. Akoid iloncha, not take the dead roots. Take the tree that's growing right now, and shkoil, take it vizil and leave. So therefore, Rav Huna's chiddush here is that even according to Rabbi Akiva, that's what we think right now. Rav Huna's chiddush is that even according to Rabbi Akiva, that generally that b'ayin yafer moicher, but in this case, if I have the trees, if I say chutz shnei I'm also keeping the ground. Now, this is very different than Bava Basra. But Bava Basra didn't have to say chutz Bava Basra because it's automatic. So by him saying the words chutz Bava Basra, obviously he's adding something. So he's saying even according to Rabbi Akiva, he wants to pass for himself. Here, when you sell a field, you sell everything, including the trees. So if I want to retain ownership of the two trees, I have no breda but to say chutz mishnei yelanis. So it's not. I'm not adding another layer. This is. If I want to keep the trees, I have to say chutz mishnei yelanis. So mitzadat din, the earth, the soil should be part of the sale. Don't read into my words. It's because we understand. It's all about intention. There's no way in the world that you would keep the trees if you know that 5 minutes from now he'll take trees away from you. What's the point? So, yep, it's a fruit tree. You're not allowed even to use a firewood. So, taking one further, let me ask you a question. In our mission, it says, if you make a field hegdish, you're not magdish the boy, but in other words, he treats it like moiche, yet lehigdish. But since ba'ayin yof moiche, so what do you magdish? Chruv hamurke v'sadna shik. Now why? If you tell me it's a mecha, not a matana, and we learned before that if you sell a field, these trees are held back. So these trees are held back. Why do we say that when you make it hegdish, these two trees are also included in the field? The tunnel in the Braisa we learned a comment. What's the reason? Hoyil the Yonkim is the hegdish. Since you gave the entire land away, so if this tree stays, where's the tree getting its sustenance from? Where's it getting its nutrients from? From the ground. But who owns the ground? Hegdish. So therefore, the trees have to go to Hegdish as well. Because how the trees are going to exist without taking nutrients from a ground that you gave to Hegdish? That's what Shimon says. The other trees sure belong Hegdish. But he's saying but when you sell a field, every tree are included. The only ones held back are these two trees. But when you make it hegdish, even these two trees go along with it. Why do they go along with it? Not the Bava Basra, but why the trees? Because since the Ada goes to hegdish, you're sucking the nutrients from hegdish, so you're stealing from hegdish, so the trees go to hegdish as well. Now we have a problem. The Isa, if Rav Huna is right, Shiyudashaya, Rav Huna says that when you retain ownership of these trees, you keep the Ada with it. Because even if you give money, the Ada is getting weaker, and the guy can tell you, Zil Shkoy, Zil, go ahead, move your trees. So who owns the ground underneath the tree? Who owns the soil underneath the trees? The Bava Basra. So why do you have to give it to Hegdish? These are not the Shiyudashaya, Kiki Yonki, but an Afshka Yonki, it's the only from itself. So we answer. We change our minds. Rav Huna's whole din is only according to the Chachamim that moiche ba'ayin ra moiche. So when you retain ownership of two trees, you also retain the ownership of the Ada. But according to Rabbi Akiva ba'ayin yofa moiche, so when you made Hegdish, you gave Hegdish everything, including the Ada, including the land. So you have no break. The trees go along with it. So Rab Shimon Amar Rabbi Akiva and Rav Huna Amar Rabbanan. For the mother of so Rabbanan Pshita. So what's Rav Huna's chiddush? Everyone knows that Bana hold moiche ba'ayin ra moiche, so you give as little as possible. And if I want to keep ownership of the trees according to the Bana, I'm keeping also the soil. So therefore, it's my soil that the tree is getting nutrients from. So what's that Hun's chiddush? The Hun's chiddush is the enoughly harder shasulu. If the tree falls down or it dies, I can plant a new tree. That's the Hun's chiddush. What do you mean? So, and before, what did we think? If I retain ownership of the Ada, and the tree dies, what did we think? Of course, we thought that Ashbam learned that that's what we. Then, of course, we thought that we knew that you could replant the tree. So, what's Rav Huna's chiddush? We thought before Rav Huna's whole chiddush was, we knew that from the beginning. We knew this thing about that you can replant the tree, but we thought Rav Huna's chiddush was that even Rabbi Akiva would be meiter. Now that we repudiated that because of Rav Shimon is a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, and obviously Rav Shimon follows Rabbi Akiva, that Hegdish takes the tree with it as well. So then it must be that Huna's chiddush is only one thing, that you can replant the tree. That's why Tosha doesn't like Pshat Gemara here. It sounds like the Gemara that now we're introducing this idea of the tree falling down, you can replant. I mean, before we thought you cannot. If you cannot, then what's that? You kept the ownership of the Ada, because we would have thought that you can actually, the guy can actually tell you, cut your tree down. It's taking away my nutrients. So when it comes along and says, no, the Ada itself belongs to the tree. No, but a Kozman, yeah, only a Kozman, the tree is growing. The moment the tree dies, maybe the Ada does not belong to the owner of the trees. Now they want to say, no, the Chiddush of Rav Huna is that the Ada belongs to him forever. And if a tree dies, you can replant it again. So the Gemara, but Tanya, didn't we learn? If we learned before about trees, you have to have there's a measure of trees. 10 trees to 10 trees to what do you call it? That where you can plant a besa. If you have 10 trees in a certain area, then we say that there's enough land, there's enough nutrients for all the 10 trees. If you crowd them more, they don't really grow well. It's not really considered a field of trees. And if you spread them out more, then a lot of the land is not necessary for the trees. So you don't get all the land. But if you plant 10 trees in this kind of a measure, then everything, all the entire land belongs to you. Yeah. How they so hikdish. What happens if you makdish shloisha ilanis? You makdish 3 trees. Memata asar lebesa. You plant 10 to besa, you get all the land. So you will makdish 3 of those trees. Now the din is when you give land to hekdesh, you want to be paid, you want to redeem it. The Torah gives you a fixed amount. The Torah gives you a fixed amount how much you have to pay each year. It works out, to 50 shekel for 49 years for Yovel, and in an area that is we could plant 30 an area of 30 saw, which is 15 which is 50 saw is 50 by 50. So this is a 1,500 square amas, 15 which is what's it work out? It works out to 75,000 square amas. 30 saw. So you have 1,500 by 50, which 1,530, so 30 times 50 by 50, 1,500 by 50, which equals to 75,000 square amas. 75,000 square amas, and each year you pay a shekel and a punyan, and that's how it is. It's a fixed amount. Doesn't matter what the value of the field is. But if it's doing just individual things, trees, marshal, individual trees, then you have to pay whatever the value of the tree is. Depends on growing on the tree, if it's a cheap item or expensive item, and so on. So here you're giving tree and land. So out of 10. Wait, should we stop here? We just stop. Okay, take tomorrow.